Do you remember Amnesia? I mean, obviously not. That's like the whole point of Amnesia, right? Okay, before you show up the video, obviously I'm talking about the Amnesia franchise, you know, the big horror game franchise which kickstarted the whole Let's Play genre on YouTube in its golden age, beginning the careers of people like PewDiePie,
What a fucking
etc. You know, the good old days. God, YouTube truly has fallen off. Well, besides that, the series has been quite dormant as of recently, as there hasn't really been much to it since the rebirth. And I mean, for a series so influential, I mean, it's created its own horror genre, being the helpless horror, as you can't fight back, you can only run away and hide. Obviously, beside that, the series had like one game that was, well, unanimously loved, that being Dark Descent, the first game in the series, which is honestly kinda odd to have a whole franchise and only one game being good. Machine for Pigs was incredibly hated in the series, as it was basically a walking sim with no real horror elements, and honestly a story that not many people could care about, as may be explained by the fact it was developed by the Chinese Room, which is the second most weird game development name after A2M, aka Ass to Mouse.
I'll walk out of this arena! Oh my! Shane McMahon! Must be here at Cleveland House! And this McMahon ready for a fight with his own son!
The third game, Rebirth, was very divisive as well. Some people loved it for its focus on story and not so much gameplay. People hated it for the same reason, as the story also was not something everybody loved, especially the main character. I don't know about that personally. But who cares, as Amnesia the Bunker is out. Yes, the new title in the series is finally out. It has been a while indeed. And it's basically the contender to hold the title for best game in the series, which I mean, it's not particularly much for competition. Having a competent story as well as way more gameplay, adding new things that were never present before in the Amnesia series, bringing a breath of fresh air not only for Amnesia fans, but also for newcomers who were not particularly interested in the old formula of the games. And honestly, the current horror scene needs it, as the AAA scene has been quite awful, with Callisto Protocol being a complete and utter disappointment, making the AAA scene look worse than it already is, and the indie scene kind of struggling with the release of Guardian of Ban. In all honesty, the scariest thing about that game was the developers' behavior on Twitter, knowing these guys are probably actual legitimate adults thinking and acting in such a manner. And for me personally, I think it satisfies not only my desire for horror, but others, as the game is legitimately great. Probably wondering, what is the game about? Well, you're basically surviving in a bunker with amnesia, if the title didn't give it away already. Obviously, it's not as simple as that. You play as a Henry Clement, a fucking French soldier?
French!
For fuck's sake, man, all you can do to me, oh my god, why? I mean, there's Hungarians, there's Germans, there's British, there's Ottomans, there's Russians, why French? Well, that's the worst part of that game, but beside that, you play as Henry Clement, a French soldier. The game starts with just surviving through the trenches of the Battle of Verdun, one of the most tenacious, brutal battles in all of World War I. Beside that, you end up basically just blacking out at one point, and then eventually waking up in a bunker with amnesia. The title didn't give it away already. The entire point of the game is for you trying to get some materials and stuff to escape out of the bunker with something, one ugly motherfucker, stalking you throughout the whole thing. is named the Stalker. I mean, obviously, so what I said previously, making things quite a bit difficult for you. So gameplay, how is it? Good? Even great? The best way to summarize the gameplay in Amnesia the Bunker is to take a dark descent with its mechanics and physics and mix it with an immersive sim and some slight sprinkle of roguelike. Charlton Wonder put it best as bunker shock, which is such a brilliant term I had to mention it at least once. Concerning the immersive sim aspects, the game is incredibly open-ended, as you can do a lot more in this game single-handedly, more than any of the previous Amnesia games mixed all together. Skip most aspects of the bunker, most rooms, most areas, and just get straight to the point, or you can explore every aspect, making a 3-hour playthrough an 8-hour one, or even sometimes more. But the relative playthrough can go from between 5 to 8 hours, and if your second playthrough is at the most 3 to 5 hours. Overall, the game's open-ended nature making it seem odd more like an adventure if you ignore the big, ugly, deformed, violent elephant in the room, which is a stalker, which is the nickname of the thing stalking you throughout the bunker, in hopes of getting in them cheeks.
Don't you run from me, little nigga. You are not fast enough.
Which are offered ways to either repel or escape from, which were never really present before in the previous Amnesia games. Obviously, depending on your approach, exploration is a very major aspect of the game. And looking for things, with the two items that are consistently in your limited inventory being your dynamo flashlight and your gun. Yes, you heard me correctly, gun. An actual gun in an Amnesia game franchise that popularized helplessness in horror gives you a tool to defend yourself, which to some may seem like sacrilege and others a great addition to a kind of stale formula. To me personally, I like it because, it's a new addition, and honestly the series kind of needs it considering how stale it kind of got. Don't get too excited, as while the gun is relatively effective at fending off the stalker, using it regularly to do that is completely ill-advised, as the ammo for the revolver is incredibly limited and has other uses being shooting off locks, allowing you to get in shortcuts or enter to new areas, some mandatory to enter. So, best option, save your ammo and run and hide most of the time, especially considering the stalker does end up building an endurance to your bullets, rendering your oh so precious gun useless. Don't be so generous with it. Your other incredibly unreliable tool is the dynamo flashlight, an actual flashlight from the late 1800s to the 1920s, around the time of World War I to be specific. It works basically by ripping on a cord like it's made of a Beyblade, making the teeny tiny generator in it produce a relatively reliable light. Also, the stalker will be breathing down your neck very soon after. Going into much detail, the stalker is attracted to noise. So using it will make it easier for the stalker to find you and maul you to death, and not using it will make exploration a living hell, also probably causing you to trip into things.
I'm about to blow.
Making the stalker finding you very imminent. There is alternatives, but I'll speak about them later. Things in Amnesia the Bunker are incredibly important, as they define the gameplay and further expand on the immersive sim aspect. You got items like bandages, grenades, pieces of glass, empty bottles, gas grenades, fuel canisters, flares, and sticks. They have many uses. You can use a bottle to distract a stalker and shove it up your ass. The stick, you can only shove it up your ass. There is also the grenade, many uses for, which is you can blow up doors.
I'm about to blow.
Damage a stalker and shove it up your ass. Okay, jokes aside, some items have multiple uses, like grenades, and singular uses like gas grenades, only to fend off the monster. Sounds nice, does it? Well, don't get too excited, as they are rarer than an ego remembering the name of the tier 3 subs. Yeah, pretty unlikely, and when you find them, using them can be very dangerous, unless you have the gas mask, which you do not acquire early on in the game. So yeah, it's a pretty unreliable tool sometimes, but can be quite useful depending on your situation. Items are quite useless on their own, but when you mix them with others, now that's a different case completely. Considering there's a crafting system, an extensive one at that. You can take an empty bottle, a piece of cloth, get an empty bottle with a piece of cloth in it, but you mix it with fuel, and that's a different case completely. You can take a stick and a piece of cloth and get a torch. You can get two pieces of glass and mix them together to get a bandage if you need to heal yourself. Overall, the crafting system is incredibly extensive and very helpful in a lot of situations where one item can truly become completely different to help you in a different situation. One item can become another can become another. And it's overall incredibly helpful and really does change up gameplay a lot of the time when you are forced to certain moments where crafting is mandatory to escape or to continue progress. You may need to have an item to fend off the monster, a Molotov cocktail. You need an item to heal yourself, a bandage. You need an item to see in the dark without relying on your dynamo flashlight, a torch. And considering we spoke of the whole aspect of items, we need to speak about inventory management. As your inventory is incredibly limited, and you really can't get much in it, you can extend it by finding items to extend your inventory further, which are like mail bags, something like that. So you have a situation where you have to take your gun or your dynamo flashlight and a couple more items to help yourself. Because fending off the monster can go from just using like 2 bullets to using your entire inventory to just escape. So obviously, inventory management is a major aspect. And sometimes you can be brave and just leave both your flashlight and your gun at your base of operations, which I will talk about later, by the way. Take into account, by the way, that your difficulty affects your base inventory, so be careful about that too.
Don't you feel silly? Don't you feel stupid?
Remember this ugly, deformed thing I talked about before in the gameplay section? Nickname is a stalker if you don't remember. So the stalker is a very unique monster and overall antagonist, as he very reminiscent of the xenomorph in Alien Isolation, which is a clear inspiration but honestly works better in here than in Alien Isolation because he is a clear focus. Similar to the xenomorph, the stalker traverses the bunkers or tunnels, and there's loads of tunnels, and there's no way to actually block them. So basically, if you see one and make a lot of noise, you're gonna be very fucked soon. As you can hear the stalker going around the tunnels, crawling through the walls, through everything. You're never safe. Well, almost never safe. Almost never safe. I'll talk about that later though. We now have to speak about the most major aspect of the game, sound and noise. The stalker is attracted to noise and sound, being what triggers it almost always. So your footsteps, running, breaking doors, blowing up doors, shooting doors, even the rats, which I will say are big fuck off fat rats which feast on the corpses of your fellow soldiers who unfortunately are not alive. These can harm you and will cause a lot of noise and will block you in multiple sections. So you can jump above them, will damage you. You can run through them, will damage you. So the only effective ways to get rid of them is to use a flare, a torch, or burn the corpses, which will cause you a fuel canister, which is not a very affordable cost to say the least. You're only guaranteed safety in one room and only one room, the administration room, which is one of the 3 safe points and safe areas in the entire game, and it doesn't stay safe forever. It's very akin to Resident Evil save rooms. You know, you have this box to store stuff and you have a light, which is basically your save file. You have one save file for each playthrough, by the way. So there, you're safe, and then you can manage everything, like your inventory, put your stuff back, put your stuff in, save points and everything. And as well, there's a room connected to it of great importance, the generator room, and the most unique mechanic in this game. See, remember the fuel canisters I regularly mentioned? Well, they're important for many things, and most importantly, the generator. The generator needs to be kept up so that bunker will have lights, and the stalker hates light, really hates light. So, if you have light on, which is generator activated, the stalker is less likely to come out, and when he does come out, he will go back into the tunnels. Because if the light is off, it's most likely going to stay outside, roaming the halls, which will force you into an encounter, where two things will happen. You can outrun somehow and hide or get to the administration room, which, mind you, if you don't close the door and it's right behind you, it can break into it and kill you in an instant.
Loser! 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 Loser!
Okay, I'm
You'll have to shoot it. In this situation, wasting very, very important resources. And while you may feel intimidated with the one save point thing, it's actually a godsend. In my 2 playthroughs of the game, having one save point was more of a help than a hindrance, really, as I was able to learn from my mistakes in my fuel or supply runs and not make them. I can lose a bullet or 2 in one run, and then I kill myself. Then I reload and not lose it the next time, which is not easy because it's already dark with the generator on. With the generator off, it's pitch black. And speaking of pitch black, the atmosphere in Amnesia the Bunker is very reminiscent of this movie called Pitch Black. If you know, from like the early 2000s, started Vin Diesel. It's, by the way, a great movie. I'll wholeheartedly recommend you watch it. The game's atmosphere is very dark, like incredibly dark, and for the most part silent. All you're gonna hear majority of the time is the monster crawling through the walls, the rats feasting on the bodies of your fellow soldiers, and the artillery shells hitting the ground above. Just to remind you, there's a war still going up there. You're never really safe, and it's shown further by the ending, which I'll get into later. When the generator shuts off, you are in a much more dire situation. Besides the fact that the stalker will become a lot more aggressive, exploration becomes insanely difficult, and it's not really easy considering your light sources are not the best. Torches are pretty unreliable, they're very costly in resources as well as they burn out incredibly quick. Your dynamo flashlight is unreliable as you have to also rip on it, making a shitload of noise, attracting the stalker, which is even worse when it's dark and he's roaming the halls. And speaking of atmosphere, I think the most essential aspect of atmosphere as a whole is sound design. Something I personally feel is not utilized enough in horror. I mean, just think about it. You are in the dark, hiding under a bed, under a desk, in a closet, anywhere, and you are hearing this noise of this humongous thing screaming and growling, and the sound of its fat, juicy, girthy, Lindsay claws hitting the ground and him just ripping everything apart. By the way, the stalker can destroy everything in its wake to get to you. So yeah, you're never really safe, even. And it's very, very smart. It will check everything and anything to find you. If there's a possibility, you are in there. Horror game can never be without a good story. And before I discuss the story, I have to clarify this is spoiler territory. So if you want to explore the story in your own pace, in your own way, I wholeheartedly recommend you just skip this part and go buy the game. It's like $25 on Steam. You can just get it there. Or, it's on the Xbox Game Pass. It's pretty accessible. But hey, it's a great game. I see absolutely no reason not to play it. Now, considering all people who fear spoilers are gone, hopefully at least, let's begin. So, you play as a French soldier named Henry Clement, which is very unfortunate. The prologue is going through the trenches in the Battle of Verdun. You are eventually trapped by the enemy, fired till your best friend Augustine saves you. Got to Henry saving Augustine from some type of crater with weird water, which Henry uses to nourish Augustine.
Stop. Yeah. going to get you out of here.
While returning to their squad's bunker, they are detected by the Germans, which shoot at them, eventually injuring both. The game cuts again to Henry waking up in the bunker with amnesia, having no idea how he got there or what had happened in the last couple of days. He eventually walks through the bunker, just finding chaos and destruction, and eventually finding a wounded soldier, who gives Henry a vague idea of what had happened.
Thought I was the last one. We're trapped down here. Red fucking bomb cells running. Exit behind there. You want to escape? You need to blow it back open. There's dynamite in the arsenal. And a handle to trigger it somewhere in the excavation site. Get them, and you can make it out. Shit. I think it's coming for me. Here, take this. Finish me off, please. I want to die at the hands of a brother soldier, not that monster. There's ammo in the pantry. Get it. Do the job, please.
But the storytelling in Amnesia the Bunker is completely different from how it was in Rebirth. Rebirth was incredibly story-heavy, but the Bunker is purely on gameplay. The story is told to you through documents and pictures you find throughout the bunker. So the way you can interpret the story can be completely different in how you find certain documents, or even if you miss certain documents. I can't delve too much into the stories of the other soldiers because it will take way longer. But it does truly convey that this bunker was alive, and there were so many people in there who lived and coexisted. Obviously, bunkers were not just places for soldiers to fight or die. They were places for soldiers to live. Most important are the documents of Augustine and the main character, Henry. You find some documents from Henry talking about how he did something bad, triggering Augustine to go on patrol in his place.
8th of July. Mid-afternoon. Joubert needs a scout for tonight. Routine patrol. Out to the communication wires and back. It'll be cloudy. Good cover. Easiest patrol possible. Sergeant wants me or Augustin to go. He still suspects one of us might have been with the mutineers. But I won't be going. How can I be so sure? Well, Augustin has agreed to a friendly game of chance to determine which of us it will be. And using an old sleight of hand trick, there's no way I'll lose. No, Augustin doesn't have a chance because I'll ensure he doesn't. Me? A scoundrel? Perhaps. But when he returns and I remind him of the time he pissed in my flask, or the mysterious lice that appeared in my bunk, or the incident with that barmaid, well...
Which results in him falling down that crater which Henry saves him from in the prologue. And then you find a document by Augustine talking about how he feels addicted to something called the nectar, the water which Henry used to help Augustine, how he felt this sort of desire for flesh, how he felt incredibly powerful.
11th of July 1916, dusk. I sit now at the bedside of my dear friend Henri Clément. The doctor has left, but I remain. I feel I must record the extraordinary twists of fate and fortune that have led me to be here. Breathing, alive, strong and well, while Henri lies unconscious, fighting for his life. It starts days ago, on a night patrol. I fell into some kind of pit. I was injured, unable to move, unable to escape. By all rights, it should have been my tomb. I cried for help, screamed myself hoarse. The effort left me parched, exhausted, and still alone. As the next night fell, as I cried what might have been my last cry for help, I could see the stars high above, beautiful and different. And then Clément's face appeared at the top of the pit. He lowered himself to me, found a trickle of spring water there, and let me drink from it. It was cool and crisp, with a strange, sweet taste. Never has water felt more nourishing than that. Administered by a dear friend's hand. I was saved. But of course, that is not the last twist fate's blade would stab.
And then you find documents of the other soldiers in the bunker, talking about how is it possible that Augustine was able to bring back Henry while being attacked by the Germans. Just to remind you, in the intro, you are saving Augustine. Henry is saving Augustine. So how is it that the injured person was able to have enough strength not only to carry another person, but to evade the German attacks and get to the bunker? Something that your fellow soldiers simply don't believe is possible. And not only that, there's the mention of the Roman tunnels. When you eventually go there, you find some fucking shit, to say the least.
It's just not right. It's really eerie here. Something's fucky.
Rocks flying, hallucinations, and some crazy guy singing a song with a shotgun, who is incredibly easy to dispatch of, by the way.
See the ocean, can't see the trees. So here I stay, down on my knees.
After you're done with that, you find a hole which leads to the crater which Henry was trying to save Augustine from. And you find only his dog tag, the weird water, but the toy which Augustine wanted to give to his son. Which is, you see pictures of, by the way. It's then confirmed officially that Augustine is a stalker, and he has been throughout the entire game. And now brings a question: what made him this way? Was the nectar? Was something else? And what does any of this mean? And I think I figured out something. Belle Delphine is an eldritch goddess who turns men into monsters using her bathwater. That is the most likely, and that is factually correct. You cannot debate me otherwise. Okay. I'm clearly sarcastic. How this connects to the story of other Amnesia games, which I can't comment much on, as I don't remember much, if at all, of any of the other Amnesia games. But obviously, to say the least, it's a tragic situation, considering already The circumstance of Augustine turning into this deformed, disgusting being, almost fully devoid of humanity, but considering the fact that he remembers the toy which he was going to give to his son, seems we have a bit of a headcrab zombie situation as he kept a morsel of his original self. But the endings make it worse. The final level of some eldritch temple where you fight Augustine for the last time. There are two options. Either kill Augustine by dropping him into the void below you, or you manage to run off into the exit, in which case you manage to get out, only to fall into the pit with that nectar as well, as the boys as the officers which ran away and doomed the others. Then shortly after, sealing Henry's fate, Germans arrive, supposedly finding him and ending him. So in the end, all lost. Henry died, Augustine is dead if you do kill him, the officers are dead, all your fellow soldiers are dead. Obviously keeping in line with that usually very tragic endings in Amnesia games, or just any games made by Fractional. I mean, remember Soma? That shit's ending was existential horror at its absolute pinnacle. Obviously, looking back into the bunker, the way you can interpret the story is different. I mean, you could look at it as a metaphor for something, maybe nothing to begin with, but for me personally, I see it as a metaphor for responsibility. I mean, Henry not wanting to take on responsibility dooms not only his best friend, but everybody else in that bunker. Not even the officers who escaped, dooming everybody else, got actually away with it. So in the end, it's just losses, and just an overall tragic end for everyone. Saying the overall message is that sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, and even if you don't want to do it, you gotta do it. Nobody else is gonna do it for you, and if they probably do, it might end up just backfiring back in the end. Hey, okay, this part of the video is just completely unscripted. It's just me rambling about what I'm planning to do with my channel. And I'll just get to the point. If you've watched this video and if you somewhat enjoyed my content, I wholeheartedly appreciate it. I'm pretty much new to this whole thing. This is the first time in my life I've actually sat down, rewrote a script, and edited down a video for like the first time ever. So if you've bothered to watch all of it, God bless your soul. This must have been a tremendous effort considering my videos are pretty mediocre. My video is absolutely below average, especially for like a first-time video. And besides that, I won't really get to a lot about it. Making the video was an absolute fucking pain in the ass, to say the least. It was fun, but a pain in the ass. I wrote a script, I had to scrap it, it wasn't good. Then spent another week writing the script. Then spent the whole week editing, and only to wake up today and to find that the entire thing got corrupted. So I had to fix it by relocating each and every single file again, manually. And yeah, it was a pain in the ass. I don't really know what more to say besides, if you're interested in whatever I'm making, I am basically going to be making variety style type of content, if you know what I mean. If you've watched the videos like Magic Mush, you'll definitely know what I'm speaking about. If you've enjoyed my sense of humor, I think you may enjoy my future videos still currently in the work. I'm planning to talk about the Confinement series. If you know about it, you probably know what happened. But to summarize, it's a series based on SCP, which is this multi-letter. You know what the fuck is SCP? Let's just be honest. You definitely know what the fucking SCP project is, or just SCP as a whole. So I'm not really gonna bother you too much. If you're interested, stay tuned. It's gonna be coming out relatively soon. It's definitely gonna be way easier than whatever this video was, the Amnesia the Bunker video, the one you're currently watching is. So if you enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe, like if you do feel so. I'm not gonna force you nor even beg you or and know you with it. Do it if you're feeling it. And be tuned for my future videos. I'm planning to not only make a confinement video, but also a video about Matthew Santoro, his fall, and the fall of top 10 videos. Mind you, I'm not going to be just talking exclusively drama. I'm going to definitely be reviewing a lot of stuff, anime, manga, games, movies, shows, etc. But I'm also going to be talking about some other subjects to diversify everything and not get too bored, if you know what I mean. So I'll just leave it at that. If you enjoyed the video, again, thank you. Feel free to subscribe, etc., all this YouTube jargon. And have a nice day. No, have a wonderful day, in fact. And bye.